Good evening, everyone. Um, Welcome to tonight's question and answers. We have Mark Collins, who is running for Niles Township Clerk. There are two candidates running. I afforded both of them the opportunity to show up. Only one person responded. Well, actually, the other person declined, his opponent. So here we are tonight with Mark Collins. We also have Bonnie, who is the supervisor. I'm sure everyone knows her. And she's running uncontested. So we're going to afford a few minutes in the end in case anybody wants to ask her any questions. We're doing this every Wednesday at 7:30. I'm starting to get requests for more people to come on, so we might have to have more nights that are not Wednesdays. I want to say full disclosure, I've known Mark Collins for more than a decade, and he's at every volunteer thing with me. So usually in the past when I was a trustee, and I also know Chuck Levy. And am I pronouncing his last name correctly, Mark?
Levy.
Levy. I keep saying it wrong. Okay. So I know him as well. We worked the beer tent in Lincolnwood last year. Was a lot of fun. He's a nice enough guy. I don't know him that well, but great guy too. So we're going to start off the night asking a couple questions to Mark, and feel free to write your questions in the chat. If you have questions, it'd be easier for my co-host to see comments versus questions. If you put Q or question. David Rosenthal is here with me. He's graciously offered to help ask the questions that the chat people propose. The questions in the chat rather, not the chat people. And he's a member of Indivisible and WSOFA, and he also joined us recently. So thank you, David. Sorry. Okay, on that note, so Mark, do you want to introduce yourself? Want to tell us a little bit about yourself personally first?
Sure. Well, first of all, everybody, I hope you got a drink because I do too. I'm gonna pretend you're all at my house around my kitchen, and we've already cooked, so everybody's eating, so you got your drink. So yeah, I'm Mark Collins. My CV and history is I was born a poor black child, which is a line from a Steve Martin movie, but it rings true. I am from Central Illinois, Peoria, where we live below the hill. And when you live below the hill, you live below pretty much everything in Peoria. But I have to say, that was the best place to be born and raised. My crazy family was the best family to be born into and raised. The things that I do here and now and everywhere have their basis where I was born and raised. I am a product of Head Start. I am a product of free and reduced lunch. I'm a product of welfare and food stamps and teachers who saw something in this kid and they pushed him and prodded him and tried to make him the best that he could be, even though he didn't even think about it. I'm the product of a mother who raised her kids to care. Give me a second. I get emotional on that because, oh, stop it, Mark. My mom died a couple of years ago. And when my mom died, there was somebody living in her house because my mom always had somebody living with us. She was always taking care of somebody, always, past the day she died. I am more like my mother than anybody else on this planet. Sometimes that's a flaw. But that's where I learned to do the things that I do, to care the way that I care. And I'm a product of a scholarship that I never thought I would get. I thought I'd be working in a mall someplace, just like everybody else in Peoria who didn't have the wherewithal and the means and the money to go to college. But I got a scholarship, went to Southern Illinois, best time of my life. I got to experience more of the world because people from Chicago came down there. And when I graduated, I moved up to Chicago. And I lived in my car for a little while. And finally met the woman I call my wife, who puts up with me. We met in improv acting, and we eventually got married and had two of the best little human beings in the world, and moved to Skokie, where I saw everybody of every stripe. It looks, and I would always joke about this, the kids would have friends over and I'd take their picture and I would send it to friends and go, look, we're at the United Nations. We live in a most amazing, diverse, just wonderful community. And the other part of why I do what I do is I appreciate this community. It's mine. It's yours. And we are stewards of it for the next generations. We must do these things that are just these great things that people can come on and stand on our shoulders and keep doing great things. We must influence our children. We must be a part of a community. It's a we thing, people. I think I've overextended myself on that one, but now you know a little bit more about me.
So you've been a Niles Township trustee for how many years now?
Don always says he knows exactly the moment and the minute we did it because he raised his hand first. But since 2009,
And what does that involve? What is, so really quickly, briefly, it's working with the Niles Township.
Alonka, you know nothing's briefly with me. The big thing for me at that time was the food pantry. Like I said, I'm a product of the food pantry. When I saw that, I went, wow, this is an opportunity to help. I was a little Pollyanna, a little naive about what it took to run a food pantry. I spent many, many, many hours in the parking lot when everybody was long gone going, what am I doing? We got 500, we got 600, we got 1,000 people. How do we do that? Flash forward now, we take care of close to 5,000 people a month and we can do it.
Wow.
We've got the team.
So what makes you think you're qualified to be clerk?
I'm trying to couch this and be positive because I believe in team. I believe in all of these elements together creating a great result. I'm an actor. I'm a corporate spokesperson. Part of acting is you appreciate the lighting guy, you appreciate the director, you appreciate the talent, you appreciate the sound guy, wardrobe, hair. And when they're all appreciated and acknowledged for doing their job, you have wonderful productions. The big push for me on that is the current clerk is a friend, was a part of the team. And we discovered that the job wasn't being done. And my task now is to make sure that that part of our team gets done right to where it's mandated and legislated to be done. We need to be up to date. We need to be in compliance. And in those two things, we are not. Do I know how to get there? Yeah. Do the work with the team, get us back to where we need to be number one, in compliance.
What would you do differently, Mark?
Pardon?
You said that things weren't done right. What would you do differently? What do you see in that office that you could change, make it better?
As I allude to, the first thing is you have to identify the problem, and the problems have been identified. And after we identified those problems, that's when our team looked at me and said, can you do this? And I said, yeah, we can fix this. We can fix it with the supervisor, our attorney, and the rest of the team looking at it, evaluating it, going through it forensically, getting us back on track. And one of the problems that we have is we need to update the processes. You know, Alanka, and I laugh, but no, it's not funny. Up until pretty recently, we would have a cassette recorder at the meetings with cassette tapes. And there are times when we would be told, okay, you got to stop talking because we have to flip over the tape and keep recording on the old Craig recorder. And I used to laugh at that. And then it got to a point where it wasn't funny. Tapes got misplaced. Tapes got lost. And there's one thing about government is you keep the records, you keep the history, you archive the history for anybody to see. Our township is transparent. You ask me, you ask Don, you ask Bonnie, you ask anybody in that township, any information, we're going to give it to you. We aren't hiding anything. And we aren't hiding that we're not in compliance. And we are definitely not hiding that we have cobbled together a great team. We're going to fix this and we're going to move on. We're going to re-innovate. We're going to, with me in that office, we're going to go digital. We're going to go more digital storage. We're going to put the storage and archival of things. We have done, and I'm laughing at myself right now, the other things that the clerk does. One of them is passports. And many of you have probably stood in that line in the post office and grumbled as they closed the window on you and said, come back later. We are now full service passports. And I have been fighting to be full service passports for 7 years. And full service means that we take everything from your picture all the way down and you're out the door, you, your family, and you can rest assured that you're going to get on that plane or that boat or wherever you're going to go. And you've got that full service passport that you didn't have to worry about doing. We have notary services. Lots of people are starting to use that now. There's lots of things need to be done that need the notary. So we do that. Voting, which is so important. The clerk's office registers and records and gives information too. So touching a bunch of little things that the clerk office does, and we're going to do them better, more efficient, and with a personal touch. You guys who know me know that I'm a personal touch kind of guy. When you walk into our offices, you're greeted with a hi. How can we take care of you? And that's important because we take care of you. You're our end user, and we take care of our end user.
Sorry, I was on mute. David, did you want to ask questions on the chat?
Sure, absolutely. Let's see. Are the notary services free?
Yes.
Okay.
Is that normal for
that
most
was a quick
clerk's
one.
offices? No,
David, sometimes I will, pardon me.
is that normal? I don't think so. I mean,
You know, when I became a
yes.
notary, you're told, hey, you can charge from this to that to whatever. To me, that's something that should be free. And it will be.
Are they free now?
I'll get it free.
Bonnie, can you answer to that since you're still there?
Hi. Yeah. Our notary services are free. Yeah, and if you need a notary through places that are often more known for a notary, like a bank, then correct. There's typically a fee at those places. We're very, very proud to offer that for free. Right now, staff is providing those services. Mark is a notary. It is under the umbrella of the clerk's office, but our clerk presently is not, while he is a notary, is not in the office notarizing, nor is he overseeing those services.
For those of you who don't know, Bonnie Kahn-Ognisanti, sorry, she's the supervisor and she'll be on at the last 10-15 minutes. If you want to ask her questions, she's running uncontested and that's why she's here tonight. So that's
And that's my daughter. Hi, Mia.
Hello.
Okay, I'm here for backup until then, though. So
Your
And
team.
fully on Team Mark Collins. All right, I'm gonna mute myself again.
Okay.
Here's another
how about-
question from Edgewater
ahead.
Foot. It's would DVM services like Evanston be available in the future? It's a great service that would benefit Skokie. Now I have to go to Evanston.
It's a fantastic service. We've had them in our offices. I don't know how many years we've done it, but I will tell you this, it is more convenient for you to go to our township on that day and go ahead. I see Bonnie waving. Oh, see, we depend on team. When my team raises, then I will answer. But you know, it's my wife could answer to that because she stepped into our office and made one of those appointments when those folks were there that day and she was taken care of. So it works. And there would be, I would love to see us do more days that. I will advocate for it. I will push for it. And then I push a little harder to tell those folks they need more satellite offices because spreading it out into the communities would probably work a lot better than standing in line someplace.
All right, somebody named David Rosenthal asks, how will you keep residents informed and improve access to information?
We live in the electronic age and things like this, venues like this, social media, you can scoff at it, you can not like it, you can hate it, but folks, that is here to stay. This is where people get their information off of social media. It's up to us to be the stewards of it, of social media and what we intake in our minds, but there are people that I am connected with all over the world. So I am not afraid of using that as a tool. Then we go to old school where we have a newsletter. And I love when that newsletter hits because all the neighbors and friends go, oh, I saw you in my mail today. So there's nothing like paper as well. And I even go even more old school. Folks, I am not hard to find. I am not hard to find by anybody. I am all over this town. I will take the time and do take the time to talk with anybody for as long as they need. If they have questions they need answers to, I can, and I do direct them. Or if we just want to hang out, that's called community.
Mark, on a similar note, we live in a melting pot. How do you communicate with people who don't speak English, who are sort of lost, don't know what to do? Do you have ideas on how to be more communicative with them?
I'm guarding myself here because I'm a bit angry. We live in a time now where we're trying to make people other. Don't speak your language here. Speak English only here. It infuriates me. I watched as my kids went through the school district 69 and I watched kids from other parts of the world come in and they were so fortunate to have ESL. And in more than one language, those kids within a year or two, fluent. We have to have more other language speakers. We need to put documents and information in more than one language. And we're doing that here. I will say I'm very proud of what we are doing here, and we can do more. But we have to first acknowledge that we do live in a diverse community. DEI is not a bad word. This is where we live. And we have to acknowledge that and nod to it. And that will make us better as well.
Okay. Another question in the chat is from Kathy. Kathy asks, is either Bonnie or Mark endorsing local candidates? If so, who and why?
In a word, no. And I don't want to be funny about this, because like I said, you're in my kitchen. I'm talking to you for real. I have not asked anybody elected for an endorsement. If any of you want to have a conversation on that, meet me personally. I'll meet you someplace. I don't think it's for a venue like this. It's for my reasons. That being said, I have met personally, and this, I put my rubber on the road. I met personally with Ann, Ozzy, James, Manal, everybody. I will meet with them personally. And I have met with them personally. There are people who have looked at me and said, well, you're going to get in trouble for speaking to somebody. It infuriates me. No, I won't. They are all members of my community, and I will have a relationship with them. But endorsements, all of you folks, the best endorsement I can get is you saying, hey, Mark, I'm going to vote for you, and I'm going to tell my family, and I'm going to tell my friends. That's the endorsement. I want my endorsement off the street. I want it from you folks. So I will not ask anybody to give me an endorsement.
So the question went to Bonnie as well, but we'll wait for your turn later, Bonnie. Are there any other questions in the chat?
Nope.
I have a question.
Go ahead, Lillian.
Lillian!
Hi, no, I'm sorry.
Controls.
I try to get on. I had trouble and I can only see one person at a time right now. Like I can only see Mark right now. And so Mark, when I got off a few minutes ago trying to get back on, you were talking about you guys could do passports now. Why would someone go to the township instead of the village of Skokie clerk? I'm just curious. Why one or not the other, or are they both trying to just do the jobs?
Well, Lillian, we're cooler. We're better.
And
I don't know exactly what they do there, and I will always talk up my team first, as if sometimes they're the only ones there. We have, and I want to speak about our employees. We have the best employees ever. You want to talk team? They are trained and cross-trained on everything that happens in that building. There are guys that started in the food pantry that now work in the main office. And it blows me away that you would think, here's a guy moving around cans and food and directing people. And now this guy is running some of the biggest processes that we do in our office. You can't imagine where you're going to find talent. And we're finding it, a lot of it coming through the volunteers at our food pantry. Tony, the volunteer at our food pantry. I'm gonna give me another minute because these guys need to be praised. Tony, my boy at the food pantry, started back with me when I was elected, and we'd look at each other, and there was another kid there with us, and he was a kid volunteering, and I knew he was so good. I would say, Tony, volunteer more. And then I would say, Tony, can you stick around? Maybe we can pay you as a part-time. Tony, stick around. We can pay you full-time. Tony, stick around. We can pay you full-time with benefits because you know how to run the thing. Tony is so responsible for building that food pantry, as is everybody else who has vested their time and overtime into the food pantry and all the other divisions in our offices. And I'm gonna be selfish. They're like mine. They're my family. They're my team. and I depend on them. And you may not know out there in public, but you really depend on these guys, and they step up to the plate every time.
All right, so I want to clarify Kathy's question from a moment ago. She was actually asking if either you or Bonnie were endorsing other local candidates, not whether they had endorsed you. So that was actually the question.
Oh, it goes, but I'll just say it, that shoots both ways for me. I will talk to people personally, and I've got, there are friends of mine who are running, and I won't discount anybody and say I'm not friendly with them, because at this point I am with everybody. But there are people who I am supporting, and I'll be telling my friends to support them, but it's on their own merits. And boy, I don't want to sound, I don't know what I want to, I do know what I want to sound like. I want to sound like the guy on the street, the guy that you're talking to in the restaurant and in the bar, or at Food for Less, or as you're walking through TJ Maxx and Marshalls. I am that guy. And that's where I want my votes to come from. That's where I want my endorsements to come from. I want them to come from the people who have used the food pantry or use any other thing in our office and say, that guy is good. I'm going to vote for that guy. He's helpful. He does the job. He walks the walk. When he talks the talk.
Mark, I think
Voting is
what you
important.
wanna know is what sets you apart from your opponent. Why should we vote for you and not him?
For everything that I've been saying this last half an hour and more. Folks, years ago as an actor, many years ago, somebody would say, hey, you're good. And I would go, come on, not really, but thank you. And then I realized if you were at a doctor's office and they said they needed to work on your brain, and you heard that they were good, and you said, hey, I heard you're the best doctor. If that doctor said, well, not really, that doesn't make any sense. So in the acting business, I learned to say, thank you. And yes, I am good. And my work grew exponentially. I'm good at what I do. And when I take on anything, I become the best at it. It's what I do. I am like my mother again. I care. I care about the people. I care about the process. I care about government. Government is wonderful, people. Government's wonderful. It's the people sitting in the chairs that usually are the problem. We cobble together these rules and laws and things like food pantries and things to help people, and they work. It's up to us, those, as I put it, butts in the chairs, those people who are tasked, who are responsible, who are elected to do these things, to do the right thing. And that's one thing I do. Without a flaw, I do the right thing. You don't see me walking around town devising ways to do the wrong thing. And I've always said in this office years ago, this office is not mine. I'm going to do the best I can here, but the day that I can't, then it's time for somebody else to take over. That's where we are now.
Okay.
Lily, I love your face.
You know what, Mark? I can't even imagine you not at the helm of what you're doing. I just, because you don't only do the job, you do it with your whole heart. And it's so obvious. It's just so obvious. And there is a comfort level knowing that you're the person doing what you're doing right now.
Thank you, sis.
But but in general, I've been thinking a lot about, just stuff in general with what's going on in the country altogether and here in Skokie. we have such a diverse community that of course we're going to have diverse opinions and diverse needs. So for whatever reasons people choose to endorse, or just like you said, have a conversation with the candidates that are running for any reason, that's what makes sense because of all the different needs. And then I also missed the part about you talking about ESL. I'm not sure. I missed that. I was trying to get back on.
In a nutshell, there should be
Let me just
more.
interrupt for a second and you just say that, Lillian, I know you weren't here and I know you're a teacher. You're not following the rules. You're supposed to go in the chat.
Hey, Alanka, if I
But
may,
if you don't
if
mind,
anybody
Tamar,
else
it's
wants to
fine.
chime, I'm sorry, I interrupted you.
Yes, if anybody else wants to do that, if you prefer that, that's
You
fine.
know what? Like
This
I
is your
said,
interview.
I am fine with anybody, but
Okay.
guys, this should be a conversation. It'd be lovely if you were in my kitchen.
Okay, so then why don't we raise our hands? If everyone knows how to find a hand raising thing, if they want to ask a question, then you can ask it live. In the past, I've done it through via chat, but if Mark doesn't mind, he's the one
I
on
don't mind at all.
fire here. So
And-
Laura Frisch asks, what are the responsibilities of the township clerk versus our village clerks? That's a great question.
Yeah.
That's a
what I
great
mean.
question because I have not studied up on what village clerks do. So I can't pretend that I would helicopter in there and do everything. You know,
I know.
the township is a different critter altogether.
I was gonna ask you, people want to get rid of the township sometimes, government.
Oh,
I've heard that around town. So they say it's a waste of money, right? I'm sure other people have heard this. Why would you argue that we should keep the township?
A good question.
it's a great one.
More
Ooh.
than
And I'm trying not to get emotional because it is. Urgh. Bear with me, folks, for a second. This is really me. I have seen townships that don't do the job. We do the job. I have seen townships that do the job so well that we look at them and then we do that job that they're doing so well. We morph and we change with them. Township is that last crack that you fall into, but we catch you. You come into our office, you need something. I argue with people about the food pantry, not all the time because the argument is over. When you come into a food pantry, you don't come there because you're shopping and you got nothing else to do. You're in need, people. You're in need. And I have seen food pantries, especially downstate, that give substandard food, freezer burned food, dented cans, things without labels with things written on them, and they expect people to eat that. There's no dignity in that. Townships keep people from falling in those cracks in more than one way. In more than one way. We even have a garden that you don't need a food pantry. You don't need the clerk's office. You don't need to see Scott Bagnell about your taxes. But, you know, I want to do a little gardening. And I live in our community. And I'm a taxpayer. That's how that garden got built. It was a playground that was sitting there empty. That's how that food pantry got built. It was a daycare that was sitting there empty and it wasn't working for the people. This was before Bonnie and Don and I and a few others knew that we were that last hope for people. Those 500, which I said 500, 600, 1,000 people who were coming to our food pantry, who were fighting because they thought they were going to starve, who were wrestling each other over food. That's the true beginning of our food pantry. It wasn't pretty, but those folks needed it. Townships give you that personal touch when you need it. I have a friend that is under a township down south. Their services were so abysmal that I called them up and I told the woman I talked to a few times trying to get this woman help. I finally told this woman, you know what, did you open the door today? Then do me a favor, leave your keys on the desk and leave and never come back, because you're not doing anything for this woman. You're letting her die. And that's the truth. Government saves lives, people. We're supposed to, we're charged with it. And that's at its base. I don't know if I really answered the question. I'm just being really real here, and really, it's a weird time now, folks, where people are trying to destroy government. Folks, that's all we got. And at our township, our team will stand up and fight that every step of the way. We will take care of our people, and we will be that example for others to take care of their people as well, because we're all we got.
Looks like support for keeping townships is overwhelming in the chat.
Bless your hearts. Bless your hearts. You guys, you get it. We don't do roads. We don't do a lot of those things that other people in other townships do in other areas. But what we do it right. We take care of people.
All right, here's a good question. Eileen asks, can someone ask you, Mark, to go over the clerk's responsibilities for everyone? I know you sort of touched on that, but maybe with a little more specificity.
The clerk's responsibility is to be the keeper of the records. And records are important. Again, I said that earlier. I don't know if you guys heard it. That's a part of that thing I call government. It's the history of what we have done, what we had agreed to do, the changes we have made. You got to have a record of those. You don't know where you're going until you look at where you've been. To be responsible to run the meetings, to archive and dispose of, or put up for the board to make those decisions of what should be archived, what should be disposed of. Again, compliance to all the rules and regulations so that we can keep rolling and keep moving. The passports, what else am I missing? Notary services, passports, voter registration and information. You're handicapped, you need a placard, you come to our township clerk and we get you that placard.
In the village of
And-
Skokie, Mark, they have, the clerk sits there and takes the role and, kind of controls the meeting. there.
Runs the meeting, starts the meeting, runs the meeting, hands
you
it
do it
over to
there
the
too?
supervisor.
You do it there too, is what you're saying?
Pardon?
You do it there too?
Yes. Oh, yes. I invite everybody to come to our meeting. We're informal. We're formally informal. You will see that we are human beings up there doing the thing, and we appreciate each other. We respect each other, and we respect when people come. We want you to speak up. We want you to see what we do. When people complain, oh, you're not transparent. Or we're saran wrap. We're a clean window. And we want you to see it and be a part of it. I always want people to know what townships do and what our township does and what our employees do. We do the thing, as we call it. We do the thing.
All right, here's another good question. Ken asks, what's the first thing on your agenda when you win?
Hopefully to get a good night's sleep. And then go in that office and remind my team that I am there doing the same things that I did before. The things that I do at the food pantry, I'll be doing at the food pantry. The things that I do to build our scholarship, I'll be doing that. I'll be out there in the community finding out what people need. And then I will, with Bonnie and our team, forensically go through all of this information that is not in place, is not in order, and I will make that the first thing that we do in that office. We must be in compliance. If we don't follow the rules and the letters of the law, then why should anybody else? We've got to have all of our records straight. That's the first. And beyond that, all of those other things of the clerk's office, I am right now becoming a passport agent. Because why can I tell employees to do something that I don't know how to do? I'm going to be able to do everything in that office, in the clerk's office, and everything I did before. And we are going to devise new and better initiatives to help take care of our community. That food pantry came out of an initiative of a couple of employees saying, I know some hungry people, we should put some cans in the basement. They took the initiative and they did it. And now, like I said, we take care of about 5,000 people a month.
All right. So Lillian asks, do you believe in having interns to learn from you and continue procedures that you put in place because they work so well?
And let me piggyback on that. You said you wanted to digitize. I don't know what the status quo is of the records right now, and if you're gonna go in the past, but would you use interns to help you? I'm assuming that would be a monstrously huge job.
Here's something I did a couple of years ago. We were at a clerk's dinner, and the Cook County clerk and everybody was talking about, oh my gosh, it's so hard to get judges and people to poll watchers, and I said, you know what? We always look at people who are retired to come in and do things like that. It works to a degree, but we totally overlooked this gigantic resource of younger people. There are people in high schools who have turned 18 who are registered voters. So why not look at them to work the polls? There are people who are in colleges. Why not look to them to work the polls? And then we went a little further and I said, look, why don't we give college credit for that? Why don't we advertise in the colleges? And I got a call the next day from the Cook County Clerk's office, and they said, hey, that idea of yours, tell us more. So I hooked them up with my friends at Oakton Community College, and then they hooked up with some other colleges. And now they're finding this they're tapping into this vast resource of young people who are now getting involved and getting college credit. And I got, like, it was months later, I got a letter from those folks saying, hey, thanks, your idea is working. And then the next year at the clerk's dinner, it was, we'd like to thank Mark Collins for bringing up that idea. And it's like, yay, it worked. But it took a team of people to get it done. That's what I always want at Township. I want that new idea. I want those kids in there. Years ago, I was told that, oh, we can't have any kids in the food pantry. And I said, okay. And I went, why? Oh, insurance. No, it wasn't true. One of the first biggest changes that happened in the food pantry years ago was I had some Eagle Scouts come in, and they looked around and they said, hey, we're here to help you do this. But, if you guys set things up differently, we think it would be better. The way they set it up is still working for us. These are kids, Eagle Scouts.
Mark, are you responsible for voter registration? And if so, how would you get more turnout?
Aren't we all responsible for voter registration? Folks, I believe in, then we can go back and forth on this. And people say term limits and this and that. Mr. Gray, my econ teacher, drummed into my head, the best way to change somebody out of one of those chairs is to vote. Voting is important. There are people who fought for people like me to vote. And I will fight for everybody to vote. And I will fight to let you know that the voting is the thing. So I know that Bonnie's big on this. I know others are big on this. We have got to get people involved in voting. So I will go to schools. I will go to the bars. You got to go where they are. You got to go where people are. And we have got to be those examples of what good people and good government do. So people can go, I want to be like that. That's the biggest compliment you could ever get. If somebody looks at you and goes, I want to be like that. We adults have to be the example.
So your time, we're wrapping up on your time here. I do want to afford you the opportunity to tell people if they do want to support you, how they can support you, what you need, how they can reach out to you.
Absolutely. Folks, thanks for indulging me. Like I told my wife and everybody else, look, I was going to be real on here because this is me. I am running with a team of more than capable people and a couple of new ones to us, which are going to invigorate this whole township process. We are the Niles Township Service Party. We are a team. I want you to go to the Niles Township Service Party.com. I want you to hit us up on Facebook. I want you to find me at anywhere in town. Stop me, talk to me. But first, I want you to go to my Facebook page that I just popped up there, Collins for Clerk on Facebook. We're going to be hitting you up for donations, which my team and I are bumping heads a little bit of that because I am being so hard-headed and I say, why would I want people to give money to me when I could give it to the food pantry? It's politics. We need to get buttons, we need cards, we need handouts. So please go to our Facebook pages, go to our website, find me, email me at markcollinsforclerk@gmail.com. Folks, if you don't know me, I want to get to know you. I want people to be part of this. As I was telling a couple of young people in the coffee shop the other day, guys, this is the most dangerous time you have ever lived in because you're young. Some of us who are older have seen dangerous times. And I'm going to tell us all, this is the most dangerous time to not be involved ever. And I'm with a team of people that are involved and we will be involved and we will help. Our food pantry is going to take a hit, folks. I'm going to need you. Bonnie will tell you more on that. But we got to do it. We got to get tighter. So find us. Help our team.
Thank you, Mark.
Mark, I want to thank you for your continued support to civilly engage in the community at large, as well as conducting the voters registration and informing the township activity to the community at large. I appreciate for your continued support, sir.
Mazer, you are my brother. You are my brother. Thank you.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you, Mark. So Bonnie, you have the floor. Sorry about my dogs.
Hi, I'll apologize for my dogs too. I have 2 dogs right now. They're sleeping, but who knows? Hi, everybody. I'm Bonnie Kahn-Ognisanti. I am the supervisor of Niles Township. I am accompanied here by Mia Ognisanti, who is my 16-year-old daughter. She attends Niles North, and she is very tuned in tonight. We are both big fans of Trustee Mark Collins, who we support, running for clerk, township clerk. I don't know what the format is exactly for me. I know I have a tight time. So if there's questions, let's start with questions. I love a conversation. And I see Ralph. Hi, Ralph. And I'd also like to say happy birthday, Ken Klinkman. Happy birthday. If you have questions for me, I'm here to answer questions. I am running uncontested. which is anybody who's running will tell you it's the best way to run. Sorry, Mark.
I knew you were a supervisor for some reason.
That's it.
So if anyone has any questions, they can either raise their hand or put the, if that's
Bonnie,
right.
who would run against you?
No, nobody right now.
So Bonnie, you're working with a lot of poor people, obviously, at the food pantry, and or people that maybe not necessarily even are poor,
Yeah.
but you know, working people anyway. Are you thinking about having the pantry accessible one day a week for people who are working during the day and can't make it, or is there
Yeah,
anything
so
like that
that's a
now?
good question. When we think a lot about accessibility, and when we think about it, I think about it a lot, and I know our board thinks about it all the time, and so does our staff. We actually have extended hours on Tuesday evenings. So for folks who are working Monday through Friday, our food pantry, it's unusual that we're open as much as we are for a food pantry. So we are open Monday through Friday. We allow people to come and shop the food pantry twice a month, and that is also unusual. Typically a food pantry is once a month. Our goal is to get to 3 times a month, and we have both extended hours on Tuesday evenings for folks who are working, and we allow for proxies. So if you cannot come during regular business hours, you can send somebody in your stead. So we have a lot of school social workers who come and do shopping for families, for an example. I saw somebody in the chat ask about our mandate, and I'll answer that. So the state mandates really only, and Trustee Collins got to this a little bit. So the state mandates one thing for a township. So if you're looking at why do townships exist, it is really so that we can fulfill this one mandate by the state. And that is, and I'll use the language of the state, to serve the indigent. That's the direct language in the state for a township. And we do that by administering a financial aid program called general assistance. Our township is able to meet that mandate in many different ways. One of them we've touched on a lot, and that's through the food pantry. We are also unique among townships in the entire state as the only township that operates services for our unhoused neighbors. We're the only township that has any kinds of homeless shelter. Ours is a daytime homeless shelter. And additionally to that, we have many other financial aid programs that we've added on to be more responsive to the needs. And I know I'm talking about the government side, and today we're supposed to be talking about the political side. It's hard for me because I love talking about service. And in fact, Alanka and I spoke earlier today about coming back after the election and having a Zoom that's more civic minded and talking about the ways the township serves and the ways that we meet that mandate. So when people talk about getting rid of township, what they're really talking about is eliminating social services, because that's the only thing that townships are mandated to do. We are the social safety net. Villages don't have to do it.
Right. Erica has a good question in the chat here. It's and obviously it's directed to you, Bonnie. Can you talk a little bit more about the mandate the township? Let me start again. Can you talk a bit more about the mandate the township has as a whole?
Yeah, so I think she's getting to what I just answered a little bit, which is, so the state, municipalities follow home rule, at least here. Our municipalities do. Not every municipality has to, but many do. And Alanka knows this very well. They're subject to home rule.
Right.
Townships are not. Townships have to follow something called Dillon's rule. So Dillon's rule means we are only allowed to provide services to our residents as mandated by the state. If we see a need and it doesn't fit our mandate, we are not constitutionally allowed to do it because the state does not allow us to. Our one and only mandate is to serve, again, the quote is the indigent. So while we have an assessor's office, and the assessor in Cook County, township assessor, truly is a misnomer. The assessor helps you appeal. They're your friends. They're going to help you appeal your taxes. They're not assessing your taxes. They should be called the appealer, at least in Cook County. In the rest of the state, that's not true. The assessor actually does assess your taxes. But everything else, if we lost our budget, the one thing that we would have to do is still administer a program called general assistance. That's that financial aid program of last resort. And it is the one thing that a township has to do by state mandate, which is to help people who are struggling the most financially in our community. We do it very, very well. As I think our clerk candidate, Trustee Collins, alluded to earlier, we're serving about 7,000 people right now through our food pantry. It was an average of 5,000 people a month. We are now up to 7,000. These are trying times. And we also are serving people who are experiencing homelessness. We have an intergovernmental agreement with many of our school districts, which help with primarily eviction prevention to keep students and families housed, really truly believing that when we're in this together and we're lifting up from the bottom, everybody rises. A rising tide lifts all boats.
So I can be biased since you're uncontested.
Yeah, sure. Bring
So
me
I love the
bias. I
next-
see the smile.
I love the next question, because I think you're wonderful. I can say that, uncontested again. Why is it important to vote for you, Bonnie, even if you are unopposed? That's from Laura Frisch.
That's a really, really great
Yeah,
question,
it's a great
Laura.
question.
Thank you. And I have friends who have told me, if someone's uncontested, I don't vote for them. And I always immediately almost whip myself back and say, no, no, no. If you support somebody, even if they are uncontested, it is so important to vote because that gives an elected official their mandate. So if you believe in what I want to do, or any uncontested person who's running for office really wants and what they stand for, please, please vote for them, because then when they're fighting for the things that you believe in and that you want them to promote, they can say, hey, I had all these people vote for me. All of these people voted. You can count the numbers. They came back and they supported the things that I stand for, that they asked me as the people that we represent to fight for them. And I have the numbers to prove it. And it really, really does help when you're pushing for change, or even the status quo, whatever it is that your mandate is. So please, please vote for uncontested if you believe in what they stand for.
I like that question, especially because when I have only one person subjecting themselves to a Q&A, which I think is courageous, by the way, then I have an uncontested person on, because they need to understand the importance of voting as well. And on that note, I think our time is up, but I want to let you know that next Wednesday at 7:30, I'm excited because we actually have more than one contestant, and it's trustees at large. Thus far, we did get denials. I'm hoping they'll change their mind, but we have Joe Nowick will show up, and also Gail Schechter. So they will both be getting similar answers, and we will be unbiased and be fair to any contestant that comes on here, any candidate, rather, you're not contestants.
They kind of are contestants.
I'm not really good at this on the spotlight type thing.
They get voted off the island.
Yes, candidates rather, but it is kind of like a contest, isn't it? It's kind of, you have to put your best foot forward and you're competing against each other, and so to speak.
Hey, Alanka, can I jump in here for a second?
Sure, of course.
Thank you for what you're doing. You have been in this area, this community, this town. You've seen the ups and downs, and you shine through every time.
Thank you so much.
And I'm especially proud of where you were today. I wanted to be there.
Oh yeah,
but you were there, and I'll be with you in the next one. So thank you, my sis.
Thanks for saying that. Well, have a good night, everyone.